Now we're having a conversation about making peace with the natural world. Founded in 1961, the World Wildlife Fund is an independent conservation organization active in nearly 100 different countries, working to sustain the natural world for the benefit of people and wildlife. We are delighted to meet the Director General of the WWF International, the world's largest and most respected nature conservation organization. He works with world leaders, corporate executives, and civil society to forge a future in which people and nature thrive. Please welcome Marco Lambertini, being interviewed by one of my fellow presenters, Sasha Parkinson.
Hello, my name is Sasha Parkinson and I am thrilled to be here today on behalf of Peace One Day to interview Director General of WWF, World Wildlife Fund, Marco Lambertini. Hiya Marco, welcome.
Sasha, hello. Thank you so much for having me on this event. Very exciting.
Thank you so much for joining us. Now, I'm sure every single person watching today will have heard of WWF. But for those who don't know exactly what it is that you guys do, please can you tell us a little bit about WWF and what their mission is?
Well, WWF mission is to halt the degradation of the natural environment for a future where people live in harmony with nature, where both people and nature thrive. So I would say that in the face of today's climate and nature crisis, this turned out to be an imperative for humanity, not just the mission for one organization. As destruction of ecosystems like forests, oceans, rivers, the loss of biodiversity, climate change are actually beginning to affect our lives, our economy, our health, undermining future social progress, as well as even reversing progress made already. So this has become, in fact, everyone's mission, if you like.
If we want to live in a more sustainable and peaceful world, protection of resources and wildlife is obviously critical. But can you bring that to life and explain that for us a little bit more so we can understand that better?
Yeah, so the evidence of the impact of our impact on the natural world has never been greater. And with that, also the understanding of the consequences that this impact is having. In a nutshell, in order to reduce the impact, we need to learn how to develop economically without harming nature. Until now, for too long, in fact, we have been taking nature for granted. We have been competing with nature, exploiting nature unsustainably, without really considering the consequences. Nature was there, big, rich, productive. We've been taking. And now, of course, nature is beginning to feel the pressure of growing population and growing consumption. And if you think of nature, it's not just something beautiful to watch. Nature generates critical goods and services so important for the health of our society, of our economy, of our well-being. Think of the pollinators responsible for 2/3 of our crops. Think of the fish in the oceans, but also in the rivers and lakes of the world, supporting food security, livelihoods, nutritious, healthy diets for hundreds of millions of people, often also in very poor developing realities. Imagine that half of the global GDP of the world, $44 trillion of it, depends on healthy and stable and productive natural systems. The forest sector, for example, forestry is worth $580 billion per year. But each year, we are actually cutting down an equivalent forest for an equivalent of the surface of the UK. Fisheries, they are worth $150 billion per year. But 93% of all the global fish stocks are either overfished or fully fished. And think of pollinators, as I mentioned earlier, they're responsible for a value of crops of about $600 billion per year. This is super important for economy as well as for our survival. And yet 40% of pollinators are threatened with extinction. So just to conclude, in the last few decades, population growth, acceleration of consumption, particularly in the rich world, and also powerful new technology that allows us to exploit nature even deeper than ever before, have accelerated our impact on nature. And the impact now is nature is beginning to turn on us.
Can you tell us as individuals what we can do to protect wildlife ourselves? What can we do personally?
Whatever you do, try to avoid the impact on wildlife, whether you drive as well as when you go out in nature. But more generally, perhaps even more importantly, the key element of supporting wildlife conservation and nature is living more sustainably. Living more sustainably in the way we use energy. So save energy, use renewable energy as much as possible. Yeah. And particularly, and this is something that not many people are fully aware of, also the way we eat food. Because the production and consumption of food, it is actually today the main driver of wildlife loss. 70% of biodiversity loss on land is driven by production of food. And 80% of deforestation as well. Reducing the consumption of meat and shifting to plant-based diets to whatever extent you can, it's a good contribution, probably the most important contribution. And then there is the whole dimension of reducing waste, food waste, but also waste of other commodities, paper, plastic, etc., etc. And try to buy food that is sourced sustainably. There are plenty of certification schemes. And finally, if I can say one other thing, speak up. Speak up. Speak up for nature. Speak up for wildlife with your friends, your colleagues, your relatives, everywhere you can.
Can you tell us how we personally and as individuals can help WWF, and where do we go for information so we can,
The simple answer is to support our initiative and campaigns. We have about 3,000 initiatives this year going around the world. So it's quite a good selection to choose from. And remember that every little helps. So don't think that you have to make big donations or big actions. I mean, do whatever you can. Anything is better than nothing, and every little helps.
Yeah.
But also, one other thing I wanted to stress is that WWF is as you say, quite a well-known brand, thanks to the structural genius of our founders that chose the panda as a logo. But also, by the way, there was a panda in the London Zoo in 1961. We are 60 years old this year.
Wow.
But anyway, we are a global brand, so we're well-known. But actually, we are a federation of local organizations. I want to say this very clearly. Local leadership in Africa, in Asia, in America, in Europe, everywhere in the world, 100 countries. And so wherever people live, they can connect to the local national organization of WWF because they are speaking the local language, they're locally embedded, and they have local programs. And so I would invite them to definitely do that, as well as, of course, support our global campaigns and initiatives. One global campaign, for example, right now is about asking for a new global plastic pollution treaty. And so, we have already 2 million signatures. We need more. So these are all ways to support us. And the last thing to say, Sasha, is with an invitation to the people that listen to us. I would say, first of all, be angry for what's happening to the planet and to our future and to nature, but also be excited for the opportunity to change course and shape a safer future for all life on Earth, because that's the opportunity we have today. There's never been a more crucial time for change. And I think the society overall, governments, business, consumers are beginning to be ready for that change. So let's push now, all hands on deck.
Thank you so much for joining us and giving us your time today, Marco. It's been great, and it's definitely opened my eyes, and I'm sure it has to our listeners as well.
Thank you very much.
So much.
Thank you.